Welcome back to the channel. If you love slow burn adult drama, anonymous real-life confessions, and stories with emotional tension and forbidden moments, you're in the right place. Today's story is one you won't forget, a birthday surprise that turned into a secret still haunting the narrator years later. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. I've always been a private man. I keep my doors locked, my circle small, and my stories even smaller. But what happened that rainy Thursday afternoon still sits in my chest like a secret I'm both ashamed of and strangely grateful for. It was my birthday, nothing big, nothing loud. I had planned to celebrate alone with a quiet dinner and the football match waiting on my TV. My friend, Michael, had promised to drop by with a cake later that evening. He had also told me earlier that his son, well, technically his wife's nephew, but they called him their son, would pass by to help decorate the cake because the boy was learning culinary arts and wanted to practice. That was fine by me. I wasn't expecting anything unusual. At exactly 3:17 p.m., I heard a soft knock. Too soft for a young man. Too careful. When I opened the door, I froze. Standing there was not his son. It was Michael's wife. Let me not call her by name. She deserves anonymity, and trust me, after what happened, she needs it more than anyone. She stepped in, brushing rainwater off her black shawl, her perfume carving warm streaks into the air. I noticed immediately, this woman wasn't here by accident. She didn't look hurried or misplaced. She looked prepared, almost rehearsed. I hope you don't mind, she said, lifting a small cake box. My husband got called in for work, and, well, I thought I'd bring the cake myself. I nodded slowly. Something in her eyes lingered on me, with intention, with mystery, with a kind of tension I didn't dare name. Inside, she walked like she memorized my living room. Calm. Silent. Certain. The boy couldn't come? I asked. She smiled, a slow, knowing smile. No. It's just me today. The storm outside cracked the sky open, rumbling through the walls. She placed the cake on my dining table and looked around. You always keep this place so tidy, she said, running a finger along my shelf. So, quiet. I didn't know why my throat tightened. Maybe because I had known her for years as my friend's wife, a respectable woman who carried herself with dignity and grace. But the aura she brought into my home that evening was different, almost dangerous. Let me at least light the candles for you, she said. Before I could reply, she reached into her bag and pulled out long golden candles, too fancy for a simple birthday cake. Your husband really went all out, I joked. She didn't laugh. She just looked at me again, too long, too deeply. My husband doesn't even remember what day it is. That was the first truth she dropped between us. She pressed the candles into the cake and leaned closer to find the lighter. The moment she bent forward, something inside the room shifted, the air, the energy, the unspoken boundaries. When she straightened up again, she was no longer smiling. You know, she said quietly, I didn't come only because of the cake. The storm cracked again, louder this time. I swallowed. Then why did you come? Her eyes softened, no shame, no fear, only a heavy, buried longing. To feel something. For once. And that was the moment everything changed. But I didn't know how far it would go until she took a slow step toward me, one that no friend's wife should ever take. She stood in front of me, close enough for her perfume to settle against my shirt. I could hear the storm hammering the windows, thunder rolling like a warning neither of us wanted to hear. You've been good to us, she said softly. You're the kind of man any woman would notice. My pulse thumped in my neck. This wasn't right. This wasn't expected. This wasn't supposed to happen. But she kept speaking before I could make sense of anything. I know boundaries. I know I shouldn't be here saying this. But I'm tired of being invisible in my own home. She looked down at her fingers, twisting them nervously. For a moment she didn't seem like the composed woman I'd known for years. She seemed fragile, lonely, afraid of fading into the background of her own life. Michael doesn't look at me anymore, she whispered. He forgets anniversaries, birthdays, he even forgot to kiss me goodbye this morning. I felt something inside me crack, not desire, not yet, but sympathy. You should talk to him, I said, even though the words tasted useless. I have. He hears nothing. Her voice was flat. Sometimes I feel like a piece of furniture he walks around. She stepped closer. I stepped back. But she didn't let me escape. Not emotionally. Not physically. You're a good man, she said, her eyes lifting to meet mine. You listen. You see people. You see me. She touched my wrist. A simple touch. But it burned straight through my self-control. Don't do that, I said, but my voice betrayed me, it wasn't firm enough. It wasn't the voice of a man who truly wanted her to stop. She noticed. She always noticed. Why, she asked. Because I'm his wife? Yes, I said. And because you're a loyal friend? Yes. And because you don't trust yourself with me? I said nothing. She closed the distance I had tried to create. Her fingers slid up my arm, slow and deliberate. That's what I thought. Her presence filled the room, warm, aching, intoxicating. She was close enough that I could feel her breath on my skin, soft and uncertain, but brave in the way only a lonely woman can be. I came here because I wanted to remember how it feels to be wanted, she whispered. Even if it's just once. Her forehead leaned gently against my chest. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. If I pushed her away, maybe things would return to normal. But if I didn't. She lifted her face. Her eyes searched mine for hesitation, permission, guilt, anything human to hold on to. I won't tell anyone, she said. Not my husband. Not even myself later. Let me be selfish today. Her words fell like secrets dropped into a well, deep, irreversible, echoing. And before I could deny her again, she took my hand and placed it on her waist. A boundary destroyed. A friendship redefined. A moment we could never take back. The candles on the cake flickered as if they knew this was no ordinary birthday. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the one in control. I didn't move for a long moment. My hand rested on her waist, warm through the thin fabric of her blouse, and though it was only a touch, it felt like a confession. A confession neither of us had ever spoken aloud but had somehow carried for months, maybe even years, without knowing it. Thunder rolled across the sky again, rattling the windows. It felt like the world outside was warning us, but inside, everything had gone too quiet. Too deliberate. Too intimate. She lifted her hand and placed it gently on my chest, right over my heartbeat. It's fast, she whispered. So is yours, I managed. She didn't deny it. There are moments in life when time slows down, when every breath becomes heavier, when every choice feels like a small earthquake. That was what it felt like then, two adults standing inches apart, knowing exactly what we shouldn't do, and still unable to walk away. Her fingers moved slightly, tracing a line along my shirt, barely touching me. The kind of touch that speaks more than words dare to. The kind that asks a question and answers it in the same heartbeat. I haven't felt this in a long time, she said quietly. I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't need to. Loneliness has a voice, soft, trembling, hungry for warmth, and hers was unmistakable. You're not invisible, I whispered back. Not here. Not to me. Her eyes softened as though she'd been waiting years to hear that. She stepped closer, erasing the last inch of space between us. The warmth of her body pressed lightly to mine, her breath brushing my jaw as she spoke. Then don't push me away. I closed my eyes for a second, not to enjoy the moment, but to gather whatever strength I had left. Every reasonable part of me begged to stop. But the honest part, the human part, the lonely part, stayed silent. I shouldn't, I whispered. She nodded slowly. I know. But you want me here? Yes. Her voice cracked. More than I should. Silence. Heavy. Charged. Unbreakable. She rested her forehead against mine. A simple gesture. Innocent enough for the outside world, but too intimate for two people who were supposed to be nothing more than family friends. I could feel her pulse against my skin. Fast. Nervous. Alive. Tell me something, she whispered. If this moment didn't belong to a mistake, what would it be? I swallowed hard. A beginning, I said before I could stop myself. She closed her eyes. So let it be one. And in that quiet living room, with candles flickering and rain carving shadows across the walls, I realized. We had already crossed the point of return long before either of us touched. When she finally pulled away from me, it was slow, hesitant, like she wasn't sure if her body still remembered how to separate from someone who made her feel seen. The storm had quieted outside, but inside the silence felt heavier than thunder. Her fingers lingered on my shirt, smoothing a crease that didn't need smoothing. I don't know what came over me, she said softly. We both knew that was only half true. Loneliness is a powerful force. It whispers. It pulls. It erodes walls brick by brick until one day you realize the door is wide open. It's okay, I said, though my voice didn't sound like mine. We both lost ourselves for a moment. She shook her head gently. No. I found myself for a moment. Those words hit harder than anything she'd said that afternoon. She walked toward the dining table, the candles still unlit, the cake untouched. She stared at it like it represented something we couldn't undo. A birthday cake that had witnessed a secret neither of us ever planned to create. Do you regret it? She asked, not turning around. Her skin was warm, her breathing uneven, and every inch of me felt the weight of a decision I didn't know how to make. You don't have to do anything, she murmured. Just, let me stay close. Just today. Her words clung to me like rain-soaked fabric. Just today. Just once. Just enough to feel alive again. My hands tightened slightly at her waist, a reflex, a surrender, a moment I can't explain without sounding weak. When she felt it, she exhaled, a trembling breath that revealed everything she had tried to hide, her desire, her fear, her hunger for connection, her exhaustion from being unseen. She slid her arms around me and held me. Not playfully. Not seductively. But with the kind of weight that comes from someone drowning quietly in their own life. I wrapped my arms around her too, not because I intended anything, but because something inside me recognized her pain, the years of feeling unheard, untouched, unappreciated. The ache she carried was something I'd felt myself more times than I'd ever admit aloud. We stayed like that, holding each other, listening to the storm and to the thundering of our own hearts. It felt forbidden, but also strangely pure. Two lonely adults seeking warmth in a moment where the world outside had gone cold. Then she whispered something that made my breath catch. Don't let go yet. I didn't. I'm not proud of that. I'm not ashamed either. It was simply real, painfully, deeply real. Her grip around me tightened, and she leaned her cheek against mine. Sometimes I wonder if she remembers that moment with warmth, or regret. Or if it lives in her memory as it does in mine. Quiet, heavy, suspended, and unforgettable. There are days when I wish I had pushed her away. There are days when I'm grateful I didn't. Life is complicated like that. What I do know is this. Sometimes the closest we ever come to understanding another human being is in the split second we both let our guards fall, when no roles matter, no titles matter, no vows or expectations matter. Just two souls meeting in their rawest form. That's what happened that day. That's why I carry it still. And that's why I'll never speak her name. She wasn't caught by her husband. She didn't destroy her marriage. And neither of us tried to turn it into anything more. It was a moment. A dangerous one. A beautiful one. A mistake. A confession. A comfort. A memory. A memory that still hums quietly whenever I hear thunder or smell rain on a lonely afternoon. So yes, I remain anonymous. Not to hide the truth, but to respect the fragile humanity behind it. After all, sometimes the most honest stories are the ones no one will ever know belong to us. This story is a fictional, mature-themed narrative intended for adult audiences only. It contains emotional tension, themes of infidelity, and adult situations presented without explicit content. She lit the candles, golden flame swaying between us. I leaned over and blew them out. The smoke coiled upward, almost symbolic, as though the universe was sealing our secret in that thin ribbon of gray. She placed the lighter down with a soft click and began adjusting her shawl, preparing to leave. The room felt colder immediately. "Your husband, he won't suspect anything?" I asked quietly. She smiled faintly, a sad smile, but confident. "My husband doesn't see me enough to suspect anything. It's both the problem and the safety." That truth stung more than anything. She reached the door, held the handle, then paused. "Thank you," she whispered without turning. "For making me feel human again, even if just for 1 hour." And then she left, quiet, graceful, swallowed by the wet afternoon like she had never been there at all. But my living room still carried her warmth. My heartbeat still carried her imprint. And my conscience, well, it refused to sit quietly. I knew this moment wouldn't stay contained. Even if nothing happened afterward, the memory alone was enough to haunt us both. 3 years have passed since that day. You would think time would wash it all clean, make it easier to forget, smooth out the guilt until it becomes something small, something harmless. But that's not how secrets work. Especially the kind built on silence, longing, and the brief intersection of two lonely hearts. We never repeated that moment. Not once. She never returned to my house alone again. We never touched again. We never even let our voices slip into anything that resembled the warmth we shared that rainy afternoon. But the silence between us changed. She carried herself differently, quieter, more thoughtful, more cautious. And whenever her eyes accidentally met mine during family gatherings or neighborhood events, she would look away just a little too quickly, as if afraid the truth might leak out through her pupils. Michael never knew. He never suspected. He still doesn't today. To him, she is the same loyal wife who runs their household efficiently and smiles for the right photos at the right events. But I know better. I know that somewhere beneath her calm exterior lives a moment that doesn't belong to her marriage. And beneath mine, too. Why am I telling this story anonymously? Because I'm not proud of it. I'm not ashamed either. It's simply a part of my life that shaped me more than I expected. A reminder that loneliness can push even the strongest among us toward places we never imagined stepping into. Her anonymity protects her. My anonymity protects me. And the truth, well, the truth doesn't need names to exist. I often think about her. Not out of desire, but out of understanding. Out of a shared emotional wound that stitched us together for an instant in time. All characters, events, and descriptions are entirely fictional and meant solely for storytelling and entertainment purposes. Thanks for listening. If this story pulled you in, drop a comment below and let me know what part surprised you the most. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more anonymous, mature-themed storytelling every week.